I would like to start this off by saying that I am on Discord and I am fairly active on Discord. So I will leave a link to my Discord. You can join it, say whatever you want, just read the rules first. I hope you all have fun and let's get this video started. Alright, today I am doing a video on the commoditization of essentially necessities, of necessary objects that we need to survive in everyday life, stuff like water and food, for example. And this actually comes from a message on my Twitter. I have cropped the picture so as not to reveal their identity, and other than like a technicality in terminology, I thought that this would be a good topic to cover, um, because, well, technically, if something is a commodity, it isn't necessary. Um, but yeah, so I'm going to be talking about the commodification of necessities under capitalism and the privatization of said commodified goods, such as food, for example, and what is wrong with it. And I mean, essentially, I mean, obviously as a socialist, you've probably picked up on what my answer is. But essentially, the major problem here is that, well, you're taking something that someone needs desperately, and you are holding it from them. You are withholding it from them and telling them that they must pay for it. And another issue that comes from this is you also get dumpster diving, um, which you can get kicked off the property and even get fined for by police. So, if you dumpster dive to get food, to get bread, you know, something that you need to literally fucking survive, that's just being thrown away because it didn't get sold, because you can't just give it away to people who fucking need it. You gotta make a profit off of it somehow. Um, this creates a society where we essentially value profit over people's lives. And the thing is that capitalism and you can't say that, oh, this will be fixed if we fix unemployment. You can't fix unemployment capitalism. If unemployment didn't fucking exist, the capitalists would not have a reserve labor, would not have reserve labor forces, and these reserve labor forces wouldn't be enough of an incentive to convince people to keep working for wages, since everybody's working and there's no threat of ever losing a job. They won't be able to keep their workers in line. And it's a function of the capitalist economy, is that you need to have people who don't have a job, who don't do anything in society. um, Not that you should necessarily have to do a job or work to get, like, in order to get food, in order to get the necessities in life. And as a communist, I think that ultimately, regardless of how much work you get done, you should be able to live a comfortable life. You should have a decent standard of living. Like, your standard of living doesn't have to go down from what it is now. Like, you don't have to live in shanties under communism, in these little like shanties with no electricity or anything like that. In fact, I would consider electricity a necessity, and you don't have to get rid of all entertainment or anything like that. That's not what equality of it's essentially, hey, you get free access to resources that can be produced by labor forces. And you know the thing is that if everybody who is able-bodied to work was working, and there wasn't just this system where you have to work a specific amount of hours so that you can make a specific amount of money just to survive. If that wasn't necessary, I mean, you could do work for more than that if it was work that you enjoyed and you wanted to keep doing it. But, you know, if you didn't have a job that you enjoyed, you would still have plenty of hobby time, because literally, at most, if everybody who was physically able to work, or physically or mentally able to work, worked, make enough to make enough, or to produce enough resources for everybody, you know, you'd only have 11-hour work weeks. That's 11 hours a week of work. What people do now is like 40 hours of work. This was necessary before industrialization, and made way for automation. When industrialization was first starting, the 8-hour workday was an improvement. It was something that was fought for by labor activists. It was something that literal fucking revolutionaries died over. And the thing is when we make these, when we commodify these things, we make it so that people are willing to work longer hours just so that they can afford to make stuff. And then the people who don't work starve on the streets. They don't have a home. They don't have the necessities of life. These people are essentially treated as second-class citizens. Second, third class, whatever. They're treated as like a lower class than anybody else in the fucking world. So many people walk by a homeless person and they see scum. They look at this person who is homeless through no fault of their own, and they think it's their fault that they're homeless. It's not their fault. It's the fact that our system necessitates that we have quote unquote winners and losers. This is what happens when you have winners and losers, is you have people on the streets while you have others with more fucking property than they can think of what to do with. If you've got several acres of land and a mansion, what are you going to do with all that hoarded land and hoarded space? Are you going to let people live? Are you going to let homeless people live in your house, have a room to sleep, have a room over their head? No, they hoard it all to their fucking selves. This is, I mean, that haves and haves not do not work. This isn't a system that works if you've got a small amount of the population that can just hoard massive amounts of land and massive amounts of housing space all to themselves, while someone else is forced to live on a cramped street and forced to live out in the open where everybody can see them. They don't get the basic necessities of life. They can't shower. They don't have electricity. They don't have warmth. This is what the commodification of necessities does. Everybody needs a fucking house. Everybody needs food. Everybody needs health care. People die on the streets because they can't afford health care, or they go bankrupt because they broke their leg, or even worse, if they had some kind of organ failure, which is even more likely to happen if you can't afford to live a healthier lifestyle, which is way more fucking expensive. So your access gives you the fact that your access definitely changes your access. If you don't have access to healthcare, you're more likely to need healthcare if you don't get access to it. And not having access to healthcare causes problems such as the fact that you can have literal fucking organ failure that goes unchecked until you're someone in the fucking morgue until you're in the morgue getting an autopsy and they find out that you died from a burst appendix or from a heart attack. You know, someone who's rich, well, they're unlikely to get a heart attack, but when they do get a heart attack, they get all the medical care they need. But, you know, also a rich person can get a nose job, while I literally sat in a fucking waiting room for 6 hours with a quadricep torn off the bone just to wait to be seen. Someone who's rich and getting a nose job, they don't have to sit in an emergency room and wait or anything like that. I mean, no, they don't have to even, usually they don't even have to wait that long just to get the nose job done. You know, it gets prioritized because they have more money. When you commodify necessities, you are essentially signing a form saying people only deserve to live, they can afford it, and people deserve to die if they can't afford it. You are advocating a system where people, through no fault of their own, should simply die because they didn't get fucking lucky and hit the lottery and get a business that got going, and they had to work a minimum wage job and couldn't afford health insurance. The commodification of necessities, it's even worse than commodity production in general. You know, creating stuff that is simply meant to be sold on a market, that already on its own is problematic enough. But it's even worse when you it's even worse if you can't afford the basic necessities. If you've commodified the necessities and you've made it so that the poorest of the poor cannot even get those basic necessities. You don't even have to be homeless to struggle to pay for food. I struggle to pay for food. This is a reality. This isn't me complaining about something that doesn't exist. This is a fucking reality that I live, that I understand. This is a reality that shouldn't be a reality. Now that I'm done with my very heated rant about the privatization or the commodification of necessities, I would like to wish you all a great day. Or not, if you don't want to. I mean, I'm an anarchist, I can't tell you what to do. I hope you enjoyed this video.